In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing how to do some very basic sounds for games. So I'm going to do 3 separate sounds. So 2 of them are UI centered. So one of them is going to be when you hover over a button and then when you click a button. And then one last one is going to be a jump, but we're going to get a little bit complex with that jump. So I'm going to do the UI first. So following on directly from one of my previous videos on how to do a pause menu, we're going to then add some sound to those buttons that we have. So if you follow that tutorial, it should then show you how to make this kind of menu. It's very basic. But what we then need to do is select all 3 of these buttons so we can change the sound settings for all 3 of them together. So then what we need to do, if you go to Style, we can then change the sound for pressed and hovered. So I've got a few sounds already. So here I've got some sounds. These were just got from freesound.org. So this is where you can take sounds for your own game. So this is a very useful site to use. So I've got one for click, one for hover, and then one for a jump that I'll be showing you for the character. So what we need to do, have those buttons selected, then pressed. So this is like a click. So I'm going to set that sound to click, and then when it's hovered over, do a hover sound. So that's as simple as that. And then it should be, when we show this, when we mouse over them, it does different sounds. When I click it, it does the sound, all that kind of thing. So that's a very simple way of how to add very easy sounds to a UI. So now what I'm going to do is show you how to do a jump, but not just a jump, but how to make it so it has slight variation in the pitch. So what we're going to do is right click this jump and then make a cue, a sound cue. So you can name that whatever you want, but I'm just going to leave that how it is. And then what we need to do is add one of these. So is it a modulator? Yeah. So what we can then do is replace the output. So have the modulator, have this sound going through a modulator and then going to the output. So just to test, I'm going to set the pitch to somewhat very extreme. So you wouldn't want to have this in your actual game, but just as a test, I'm going to have it so the pitch minimum is 0.5 of the normal pitch and the pitch maximum is 1.5. So it should be that every time I jump, it does a random sound from very low in pitch to very high in pitch. So I've got this jump cue now, so it should be so every time it plays through a jump, it goes through one of those sounds, but it goes through this modulator that changes the pitch of it. So what we then want to do is open up the character blueprint that you're working with. So mine is third-person character blueprint. And then so it's already got a thing for when you jump, but I want to have it where it plays a sound as well. So all I want to do is drag off of the jump. So drag off the jump execute and then do play sound 2D. So because it's on the player, it's playing sound 2D is fine. If you have something in that you wanting to have sound in 3D space, then do play sound at location. So I'll just search the same thing, play sound at location. But I'm just going to play sound 2D because it's right next to the player. It's where you're controlling, so you wouldn't want it to be a different sound anyway. You wouldn't want it to have 3D space because it's 2D is essentially it plays as if it's right next to your ear, which it is. So then we need to find the cue. So it was called jump cue. So here we are. So there's all these different parameters that you can do in here, but with a cue you can set all of those yourself without having to add all of these different codes, different bits of code. So then when I jump, now that is very goofy, so I might change that cue a little bit down to give a realistic expectation of what you'd have. So maybe 0.9 to 1.1. So this modulator becomes very apparent when you're doing footsteps. So if you've got a sound of a footstep that's the exact same pitch every time you step, it starts to sound repetitive, and you can tell by your subconscious. So having this modulator adds slight variation to that sound, just to make it sound a little bit more realistic. So with that, there's some very basic sounds that have been attached to both UI and an in-game context.